Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 4. It's called The Riddle of the Sphinx. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This might be the most focused episode the show's ever had, because all the plots actually tied together by the time we got to the end.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And the show's never really done that before, unless you count the finale, I guess, of season 1. Because I guess in that sense, they all kind of did end together. But even then...
That's different though, isn't it?
Yeah, but even then, like, Maeve was still kind of separate from everything else, even though events were kind of tied together. So, where to begin?
I think we begin with the opening, right? Because
yes.
that sets up what this episode is.
Yes, the opening, very Lost. This was very much the bunker from Lost. If anyone who's watched Lost will know exactly what I'm talking about. I could almost hear Make Your Own kind of music in my head as we were getting this scene of someone's in this place with no windows. Where is it? What's going on? Exercise bike especially really, settled that. In fact, I thought this was a flashback to the 70s at first because the furniture and the decor was very, very 70s.
That makes sense. Maybe there's a reason for that.
There may be a reason for that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I just mean to keep him comfortable.
Because maybe that's when
what he expects.
Maybe that was when he was in his teens, as in the 70s.
Right.
If this is like 2040, say.
Yeah, I think it's like something like that, right?
I don't know what year it's maybe set at.
I think it did tell us at one point on like a screen. I think it's like 2050 something.
Was it okay?
Early 2050s, I think, if I'm remembering right.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, but this would be 30 years ago, or close to 30 years ago when this
started. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're jumping ahead though. You're. I mean, not that we're avoiding spoilers because we're going to talk about it, but still.
Yeah.
I like to go in order, as you know.
I was referring to the episode when this episode started.
No, you weren't. Anyway,
I actually was that time, but
bullshit.
It happened to have a double meaning.
Bullshit. Anyway, so this very ominously, who's here? Who is this? Someone's living in this place, and very quickly it's Jim Dallas, right?
Yes.
And William shows up, and someone on the screen says, "Oh, you've got a visitor, sir." And he's like, "Oh yeah, send him in. About time."
Even before that, there's moments where you go, "Okay, this isn't right."
Oh yeah, there's something off. He's clearly in isolation of some kind.
Even that, it's where he's pouring the milk into the coffee or whatever it is, and
that's later on. I'm talking before that.
Right, but that's before it tells me he has a visitor.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm saying even before that, he's in isolation. There's this weird like, not cabin fever, but like he's on his own. He's doing all these things. You're seeing all of his routine. Nothing shows someone more on their own and bored than having a wank without any porn to look at. Like, that's basically the height of... No. He is completely on his own and frustrated here.
Yeah.
And sure enough, William comes in. And someone feels fishy about the conversation. Right from the get-go, something feels a bit fishy. And...
yeah, it's just so unnatural, isn't it?
He gives him a drink and he says something about, well, if you're going to cheat the devil, you might as well give it an offering. Right, and okay, notable line because that's memorable, especially since we've been talking about the last couple of weeks about how it is where William wants to take this company, as seeing the host, as that inspired him, whatever he's convinced Jim Delos of. We've speculated it is something to do with cheating death and possibly putting human beings into hosts. So right away, I'm thinking this here. I'm thinking, okay.
Oh yeah, but as soon as it shows him freeze with the pouring the milk, I'm like, okay, I think he's a host. Immediately.
And if not that, because I think that one you could write away that this is him being sick, right?
You can absolutely, but of course my mind leaps to things on this show.
But you can write that one away as being sick because because at first I was thinking, okay, because he mentions, okay, we're testing you here. This is like we're near the end of the phase, and I'm like, is this like testing before he becomes a host? Like, is this like the last, like, this is all the data they're gathering so they can put it into the host, right?
I get it. And as soon as he goes, do you know where you are? And he's like, yeah, I'm in California. Do you know how long you've been here? I'm like, oh, he has no idea.
Now, see, the bit that got me is when he implied, also, we'll have this exact same conversation again. I immediately thought, this isn't the first time they've had this conversation.
And of course, then he just hands him a piece of paper,
And the
and
scene
we see a
cuts.
reaction, and we cut away.
Yeah, the scene cuts. I actually called what this piece of paper was.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious at this point already, and that's okay.
It's just the script. It's basically they've noted down what they're saying every time this happens, and he reacts the same way every time. And notably, the second time we get more of it, of course, because it happens 3 times. We get the first scene, which is this one, the opening, and then later on we come back and we get the start of it to show that we're doing the same thing again, and we cut to sort of where we left off.
We get a slight difference in the routine in the sense that he pours the milk correctly. He doesn't freeze air. But he does freeze when he looks in the mirror. He kind of has a moment there instead.
Yeah. Because we'll get to that, because the third one kind of explains what's going on there.
Yeah.
But he actually has to tell him, yeah, you didn't make it. You died. And he's like, oh, how long has it been? It's been 7 years. And, we're trying this, and it's not quite working. But ultimately, and again, this time we actually follow William out of the room, and it turns out, oh no, this is all like an observation room. Like there's techies outside. It's like, okay, it's not working. Burn them.
and it's worth noting this version where we see him here this second time. This was after 7 days. This is as far as he'd made it, and this was progress, surviving 7 days.
Yeah. Did they mention 7 days in this scene?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because he did say 7 years, though. It's been 7 years since he died.
Yeah, 7 years since he died,
right.
But this attempt lasted 7 days.
So, not only did they burn him, but they burned the entire room. And I'm not entirely sure why they have to burn the whole room.
Seems a little wasteful, doesn't it?
Like, I'm not sure why the objects, like, not being the same would affect his... Because they're replacing them with the exact same objects. We see that they're replacing the room identically to what it was before.
Yeah, I wonder it's just so it doesn't look lived in at all. Like it looks new. When he gets there, they tell him, "Okay, here we're taking you into this observation room in California to run the tests." Right? They want it to feel like a new room. It doesn't want to have any hint that someone's been there before.
Okay, I mean you can clean
that's
it.
That's the best I've got.
You can tidy it up and clean it.
Yeah, but they're rich. They don't care.
Well, I mean, someone could have been there before. I mean, like,
it depends. It's the best I can think of.
Because I don't get the impression that he knows exactly why he's there.
Well, we know from the first scene, he thinks he's there for tests and observation, right? And he knows he's been cooped up in here while they watch him. So, and he thinks he's in California.
Yeah, but
in the
that's the thing. I don't get the impression he knows what's on the outside of this room. So I don't think they had to, like I think to him, as far as his memory is concerned, he's in like a room in some hospital somewhere, or in some sort of like maybe complex or something. Like he's not. Right. I don't think he knows where he is in terms of what's outside this room. So I think to him it's just as believable to say, no, this is a room I've used for other people before.
Oh, that's fair. There's a fair point.
It's just like checking into a hotel room or a hospital room. Yes, other people have been here before. It gets reused.
Right. No, I agree with you. But like I said, it's the best I've got as an explanation.
Anyway,
it's flimsy.
So, and then we come back again eventually at the end, and this is the most heartbreaking one. And again, I called something before it happened here. I immediately, as soon as we came back to this for the third time, I went, it's going to be Ed Harris who walks in this time.
Yeah, especially after one of his scenes as the Man in Black that we'd already got with one of the speeches that he'd given about death. I was like, okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to that stuff.
Just saying why that led into this really nicely.
But he walks in, and it's like, shit, they've been trying this for a long time. Because I think when we were talking about like them doing this, one of the ideas I like the best is that they've not succeeded yet, or they've just succeeded. I actually really like that they didn't pull this off. Because I was a little bit worried that if they had pulled this off, there was going to be left and right people who have been dead for years are going to start popping up, and it was going to be like a whole thing. I think it's more interesting when it's just on the cusp, like we're just about to get there. And maybe Ford's gotten a little bit further, I've got some speculation on that in a bit, but I like that, because I think when we were talking about it, you were kind of like, oh, they've replaced people and sent them out into the world, and
I said it was a possibility.
They're infiltrating.
And I stand by it was a possibility until they told me where this tech was at.
So, but I like that it's failing, and it's this hard. This is like 30 years of trying, but at this point. And it never confirms how long it is, but we know it's been 30 years since the incident in the park, so we can kind of ballpark it. It's maybe slightly less than that, but yeah.
Right.
And, he comes in, and obviously this plays out differently because now he looks so different that Jim's like,
He immediately knows he's dead.
he's like, who are you? And he obviously makes it clear. He's like, oh, I guess I didn't make it then.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, sorry. But this is where we see William. This is like, at his darkest. And I was wondering actually when this scene takes place specifically because, correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a scene in the finale of season 1 where he's looking at because he always brings the same bottle of booze with him?
Yes.
I feel like I remember a scene in the season 1 finale of him looking at a bottle of booze, and it didn't really mean much at the time beyond.
I don't know if it was that episode, if it was the finale. It might have been.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, the conversation he had with Ford, maybe. In that bar.
I seemed it was maybe when he came in as Ed Harris holding it, it clicked. I went, wait a minute, I seem to remember him looking at this bottle before, like from last season. But he, his sister. But this is where he's at his absolute darkest in the timeline as Ed Harris here, or as the Man in Black, because he just gets soul crushed. Because this is the thing, from our perspective, it feels like he's getting worse.
He's kind of mellowed, right?
No, not William. I'm talking about Jim Delos.
Right, okay.
His condition as a host, it feels like it's getting worse because it feels like he starts malfunctioning earlier. Because from our perspective, it's earlier in the conversation.
It is, yes.
But we find out that this is the longest he's ever survived at 39 days.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so after 25 years or however long they've been trying this.
Yeah, 149 attempts.
149 attempts. This is the furthest they've got is 39 days. And he's stuttering, but he keeps talking to him as he's stuttering, and he's asking about his wife. Oh, that's not a possibility anymore, is it? And we kind of knew that was actually in the middle scene. We found out about his wife dying. But then in this scene, it's like, oh no, your daughter committed suicide. And obviously, he's stuttering, he can't really control his words, but you can see the emotion. Honestly, the acting here from Cullen, fantastic.
It is, yeah.
This was malfunctioning robot whilst being extremely emotional. It was great.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Did we know about Man in Black's wife being committing suicide? It feels really familiar, but I don't remember.
No, I think we did. I think
yeah.
Cause obviously, we got glimpses of like a flashback in this episode, but I think we did. I'm sure
that's
we knew
all
that.
right then. I thought I did because it didn't shock me, but I don't remember the scene of it.
I don't know if we knew about Logan ODing because that gets brought up as well.
No, I'm pretty sure that's new because until the end of last season they couldn't tell us about Logan.
Obviously,
future,
yeah.
Because of the
but
mystery.
here's the thing is that this scene is heartbreaking. Like Delos has not necessarily came off as the most likable guy in the world, but him finding out his entire family outside of William have perished in particularly nasty and dark ways, with the obvious exception of his granddaughter. More on that later. But this is a heartbreaking scene, and Man in Black just like no, don't burn them. Let him observe him for a couple of days. See what it's like him deteriorating further.
Yeah, but I said that he'd mellowed a bit, and I think in the sense that when he's a young man as William, he's so gutsy about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to defy death. Whereas now he's kind of like,
oh well, that it depends what you're meaning by mellow. Because okay, you're in that sense, sure, but this is him at his cruelest. This is cruel. This is not William that we knew in season 1, where he was trying to be a hero and save Dolores.
Absolutely not. I'm thinking of not season 1 William, the younger William that we're seeing.
I think
now,
mellow's the wrong word. Mellow is a positive word. This is tired and empty and like doesn't believe in anything anymore. This is I'm giving up because this is useless.
Okay. See, I don't know if he has done it just because he thinks it's useless. There's a few times here where he does that.
Well, no, I'm not saying he thinks it's completely useless in general. I'm saying that's the vibe he's giving off in this scene. He's tired. He doesn't. It's like he almost doesn't care anymore. There's like he's losing hope that it's even worth doing. He even says pretty much that in the scene.
Yeah, but this is what I disagree on slightly. He comes across to me as, he says, maybe we don't deserve to live. Maybe we shouldn't be living forever. The concept that this, that he put into motion 30 odd years ago of, no, let's cheat death. He doesn't seem to be as into that idea as a whole anymore.
No, he doesn't. But I don't think it's not for good reasons though. It feels like it's a cynical thing. It's not like he's realised no, life is only meaningful if we don't cheat it and we live and we die. It doesn't feel like that lesson's been learned. It feels like No, I have become cold and cynical, and I hate everyone around me, and I don't think anyone deserves to live longer than they should.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
It feels like the colder side of it, and I think part of the arc for Man in Black is going to be that he's going to go to the beige hat. He's going to end up with the beige hat by the time his story's done.
Well, that's fair.
And it's kind of hinted at in this episode in some ways. It's kind of debunked as well at the same time, but I'll more on that when we get to it. But no, he is cold here. He is cruel. Him leaving him alive to suffer while he's like realizing all this and he's smashing things apart. That is cruel. He is at his worst as this Man in Black. This is William at his darkest moment, his darkest point in his life. Yeah. He is so cold and cynical, and I think it's so fascinating. We see him go from trying to be a hero in season 1 to this point, and I really do think the arc is maybe not. I don't think he necessarily gets to squeaky clean hero by the end of it. But I do think he maybe, like, here's my guess, right? Ford's game that he's putting Man in Black through. I think he wants him to rediscover his humanity. I think Ford wants him in the same way that Arnold wanted Dolores to become human or more human. I think Ford wants William to become human.
Quite possibly, Ford has been here over the decades that he's seen. He knows William quite well. Over his life, and he presumably saw him become more and more obsessed with this place, and lose his humanity as his family died, etc. Yeah,
that's what my guess is right now. That's the aim. I mean, I don't know what's going to be in the rest of the game, but I think that's the aim of the game.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I think that's super exciting, and like I said, the emotion of Delos, like hearing about all his family and not being able to respond to it, and like struggling to get out words, the odd word here or there.
Yeah, something interesting is obviously we were talking last week about the possibility that that he was inside Peter Abernathy, right? As that was the large data file was him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's still possible. And because they're obviously copying this and trying again and again, right? But
you think what they were trying to sneak? They learned that William had a copy of Delos in here, and they're trying to sneak it out.
Right.
That's possible.
I don't know if it's William on his own who thinks this, who is doing this. I think it could be the Delos board in general who are in on this.
It was William's idea. I think now that he's losing interest in it or he doesn't believe it anymore, maybe that's why other Delos members are trying to steal it because they want it to keep going.
Right.
I do think there's a possibility that it's not just that. I mean, it very well could be because obviously we've set it up here.
Because, like I said, they have to have been storing that data somewhere to keep reinserting it into our body.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
yeah. So it very well could be that. And again, that goes back to him reacting to the photograph. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It also kind of jives in that Abernathy and now Delos are the two robots we've seen malfunctioning in similar ways. Because think of how Abernathy is with these words and how he gets confused and how he stutters around.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's very similar, isn't it?
It's not the exact same, but there's definitely some similarities in there.
There is, yeah.
And, if they do end up... if it does turn out that Delos is inside Abernathy, I wouldn't be surprised if the actors got together and kind of discussed how they were going to portray it together.
Line up some similarities, yeah.
So, I imagine Ed Harris and what's-his-face, Simpson, who plays William...
probably been doing the same, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
If not last season, absolutely this season.
Yeah.
Because I think you can get away with it last season because William was so different.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd probably still wear though. I bet you at table reads and stuff they'd be sitting
they
chatting.
Probably had small things, but I think it's more important this season where William as a person, as a character, is more aligned with the Man in Black.
It's more important this season, but I think they were doing it the whole time, and my reason being is I think as actors, knowing the story from beginning to end and knowing what their journey is, they have to know both halves of it, and I think them agreeing on, okay, so this is what this character would be like here in this part of his life and what he'd be at this part of his life, and how you're going to slowly become into what I started as and how I'm going to slowly turn back into what you were, assuming I'm right about where the where the story's going with them.
They may not have known that exact part back then.
Sure, yeah, but
depending on when they decided that plot.
But even if it was just as, okay, you're going to turn into me eventually, so let's work out
line it up a bit. So it's believable that it's the same person ultimately.
Yeah. So no, that's really good stuff. Obviously, there's a little bit more of this, but I think it's worth going back to Bernard and following his story, and then meeting up with where the Delos stuff kind of.
I'll some of my favorite touches in the background of these scenes
Mm.
were in the second one. There's the record spinning, right?
Yeah.
But it's not playing any, and it's almost like a groove recording, like an old style wax recording.
Mm.
And I thought it was a nice touch. And then the final touch is in the final bit where it is pedaling backwards. I like that touch a lot.
Was that in that? He was pedaling backwards later. Was he pedaling backwards in this flashback?
I think he was in this one. Was he?
Okay.
Well.
I didn't notice it in the flashback, but he definitely was in another scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, go back to Bernard. Also, can I get a medal, please? Because Elsie's alive.
It's funny how we were talking about that last week, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I get a medal?
I was right that there was a scene showing Bernard.
No, you were. And it's funny because we got a comment saying, no, Connor's right. There was a scene of him getting a flash, choking her. Still though, I feel vindicated. Regardless,
because that did happen. I didn't imagine that.
But Elsie's alive, and what's more is Ford seems to be playing with Bernard as well, because first of all, Clementine brings him here.
Yeah.
Something's telling her to do that, and it wasn't Dolores. Dolores is not the one telling her to do that. And then he gets inside, and Bernard, whenever he took Elsie, he's chained her in here. And as we see, he gave her some food to make sure she was good for a little while. And she's not very happy. She's terrified of him because obviously she remembers being choked out and kidnapped, as you do. And my theory here, honestly, is that this was part of Ford's plan, and it was like so that there was someone there to help him later. It was almost like he was predicting he would need help. Someone who can work on a host.
Yeah, because obviously Ford knew he was going to die because that was part of the plan. So
you mean like, Ford was going to die?
Yes, that's what I said.
He said Ford knew he was going to die. You could have meant Bernard.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I meant he.
Because we were talking about Bernard in the previous sentence.
Okay. So Ford knew he himself was going to die. That was the point of his plan. So it does make sense that he leaves someone. Okay, right. Let's take them off the table for now, and put them here so that they can come back into play when I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, interesting as well that we're getting more and more very direct things of Bernard having memories, and even talking about the memories when Elsie looks inside his head. Hey, like you're like. I mean, first of all, there's the shock of holy shit, you're a host. There's that moment.
She gets over it pretty quickly.
She does. She sort of realizes what's going on, and she's like, okay, right. And he of course is like, hey, there's like nothing for miles, or like, or she says that, and then he has this like little memory of seeing himself coming here. And he kind of like goes in the cave and he figures out, okay, like, and he has another little flashback and he's like, okay, this is the rock and there's a lever. Yeah. And they end up downstairs with a creepy white milk hosts.
Before we get downstairs, on the elevator, the big door, it really lingers on this being number 12.
Number 12, good to know.
And I'm like, okay, is this like this hidden lab number 12? Like, what's going on there? But it really lingered on it, so I thought it feels intentional to show us that.
It might not be so much that there's 12. I mean, it might be, but it could also just be that there's different things with different numbers, and 12 is this place. So
it could be, because I thought the reason I thought it was so notable is Elsie just told us we were in Sector 22. So it's like, okay, so it's not lining up with where we are necessarily.
Yeah, it's not sect. That's what I mean. If I was naming them, right? Let's say there was several of these, I would name each one after its sector. But I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But I
think that's why it stuck out to me that it wasn't named after its sector, which means there must be a different system of naming them.
Yeah, so either there's 12 of these places that are all doing the same thing, or it's just lots of different things, and this is number 12.
Yeah.
But they go down, and she helps him, gives him the fluids that he needs, and she's very hesitant to help him, but she sees that he's in pain, and she might need his help, and so on and so forth. And she helps him, and she's scared to shit at these big. And I think it's interesting that she's never seen one of these things before.
Yeah, because we were surprised by them, of course, and
Charlotte was not.
Too. Yeah,
that's worth mentioning. Charlotte was not surprised by these things.
Right, which is why I was thinking to link back up with some of the previous stuff I was saying about how maybe the Delos board was aware of what William was doing with Jim Delos, and that stuff. because she seems to know what's going on down in these places.
She does, she does. It's worth mentioning, I don't think this is the same place that she went down to with Bernard.
I don't think so. I'd have to go back and check the number on that, but I don't think it's in the same place. It's not in the same place. At least not from the exterior.
No, it's not in the same place, and also the one they went down to didn't have the bodies all like stuck to like the machinery and
it didn't,
whatnot.
but I think something worth mentioning here is, we said, okay, they know that we know there's different timelines now, so they're being more upfront with it. They murkied that a little here, because Bernard keeps asking, is this now? Am I seeing this now? Am I here with Elsie now? Or is this a memory? And Elsie even says, when she was putting him in safe mode and looking through his stuff, that he's experiencing the memories out of order. He is not necessarily seeing them in the order that they happen.
That's true. I mean, I think I think the natural assumption is because Clementine drags him here, that it follows on from when he was at the big battle last episode.
That tracks, yeah.
Right? Which is after he went down into the other place with Charlotte. So, at face value, this is in order. But there's also nothing in this, like, his plot this episode that actually proves it takes place after that.
There's not, and again, it's a slight bit of more evidence. Just that conversation happening at all is a slight bit more evidence to what we were talking about. How Bernard might actually be, somewhere in the future, and this is all a memory from his perspective.
Oh, sure, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily prove that any more than it did before.
No, but it's just another little hint that maybe
because I mean that was always a possibility that it's taking place in the future and everything's a memory. I think what's more interesting to me in this one, it might not be important, but in the previous episodes with Bernard, we've had the present day stuff essentially be the 2 weeks later with the all the men are on the island with them and they're looking for clues and whatnot. And we've taken as everything he's remembering from the previous 2 weeks as him remembering from that point. I think it's interesting this episode doesn't have any of that timeline. This episode has just that. This is almost as if this is the present timeline, and he's remembering the odd little thing as well within that.
That was the same in the second episode as well, I think. That didn't have any of that other timeline. There
was no Bernard in that timeline, though. Or in that episode, I mean.
Oh, was there not? I can't remember.
Yeah. He was just missing from the episode completely.
Oh, fair enough then.
This is the first time we've had him, but that timeline's not been there.
Right, okay.
So, which might not be important. I just think it's curious.
No, it's worth noting. It could be a case of they just think it's established enough that we don't need it.
Well, no, because I'm thinking it's not. What that means is that in this case, this is not a flashback. This is him experience. We're seeing him experience this for the first time in this episode. But in the other episodes, when we have that timeline, everything we're seeing is him remembering that timeline. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does, yes.
Yeah. So here we're getting this in present time for him, but he's having these little memories of getting into the cave, so he remembers where things are. And of course, there's the big memory he gets later on. There's some flashes early on, but then it finally reveals that he actually is the one who initiates the murder of all these workers that are down here.
Yeah, he talks to one of the drones, and the drones go through and just rip through them all, and then snap their own necks.
They snap their own necks. Interesting that these can be killed by snapping their necks. That's notable.
Yeah, I thought that, and I was like, why? Does he want it to... I thought maybe he wants it just to look like there was a fight, like the humans fought back. Like, why tell... Or because that wouldn't delete the memories of from these drones. Yeah, surely you could just access it.
Yeah, which is why I don't think that's the reason, because they could just look at their memories. If they have memories, that is.
That's true.
They don't have any eyes, so I mean.
No, that's a fair point.
What are they sensing and recording, if anything? Yeah, I'm not sure why he gets the robots to kill themselves. I mean, I have to assume the people is because whatever he was doing,
they didn't want them to see it and tell him.
Yeah, whether that's something he's doing or something that Ford made him do. He thinks it's something Ford made him do. And of course, the notable thing is after they discover the room with Delos in it, and Delos has been all crazy, and he's killed the guy, and he's scarring his face, and he's speaking in complete riddles, and all the rest of it. It's proper horror movie robot action once we get in there. But this was a very neatly paced and structured episode. It felt like it was coming in neat thirds. It was very well done in that sense. But so once they come back out. And this is the very juicy bit that's worth sort of remembering for future episodes, where we're going to start theorising like mad, is he says he thinks Ford made him copy another, because they're talking about how this place was taking the memories, the life, if you will, of Delos and putting it into one of the host brains and transferring it into that. And they mention that in this flashback, he says he thinks Ford made him do that with another person's mind.
Yeah, because we get a few flashes of one of these things building, and I was like, what is that? And he answered, this is the control unit for the human versions of these.
So, theories then as to whose mind was created here.
So the obvious one, of course, is okay. This was Ford, right? Because it was done at Ford's command, in theory.
Yeah, and if he's he's dying, he thinks that I do worry that would lessen the impact of him letting himself be killed at the end of season 1. But hey, it's possible. It's the obvious one to go to.
It's in a way I kind of like it in the sense that he because he had this god complex, right? And he could see this as his ascension in some ways.
True, but he kind of... The God complex thing kind of swerved a bit, though, when we realised what his true intentions were.
It did at the end.
Because the God complex was something we were talking about a lot early season 1. But once we got to the finale and we realised that he actually wanted to achieve Arnold's plans... He was just, like, he realised he had to go about it in a sort of... there was no rushing it. He wanted to go through it the slow, methodical way that got results. My other guess would be, and this is me sort of stabbing in the dark for the big twist of the season, is Arnold, and Arnold's already in Bernard's head, and that's why he's so confused.
That's the two I have written down in my notes.
Yeah.
I had Ford because, again, it's the obvious one, although I think it's too obvious in some ways. I think it's too easy.
Yeah, my guess is that he made host Bernard copy Arnold's mind, and then he gave Bernard Arnold's actual mind.
Right, and I'm going, okay, some of this stuff that we're seeing, is it Bernard or is that Arnold? Like some of these memory flashes that he doesn't seem to have access to. Could some of those been the Arnold version of him?
Well, the ones we see in this episode.
Yeah.
The killing the people.
Perhaps.
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
Well, because these people just died recently.
True.
They're not decomposed. I mean, unless Arnold took over, recently. But Arnold was never painted as a violent person, though.
He wasn't. No.
So I don't buy that Arnold was going on a murder spree. You could swerve me and say that this wasn't just Ford telling him to kill people. Like there was someone else manipulating him, or Bernard went kind of crazy. You could tell me of those things, but I don't know if you could sell me.
I think it would depend on the content. I agree, it's not that likely.
Yeah. Even for Ford, it's kind of because even though we know Ford had a couple of people killed, having him wipe out this room full of people that feels pretty dark, even for Ford.
It does. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I agree that those are the two most likely scenarios.
Which is why they could completely shock us, and it's what if it's someone we didn't know died?
I mean, maybe.
Oh, what if it's Teresa? What if he even cared enough?
I don't think because.
I say that. I say that not really believing it. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't. For assuming this is all from Ford and not Bernard had some sort of awareness over what he was doing, taking it at face value at that. I'm not sure who else it could be because I don't know who else Ford really cared enough about other than himself and Arnold.
Yeah, Arnold's my. If I'm putting money on something right now, I'm saying it's Arnold.
I am too.
I'm saying he stored Arnold's memory all these years, and this is why I'm thinking in terms of stealing the data and getting out from Delos. I'm thinking they actually discovered that Ford had achieved
further ahead.
Yeah, Ford was actually closer to achieving it, and that's what they're trying to steal. It's not so much that William was hiding what he was doing; it's that the version that works was being hidden, and that's
very possibly.
It's their holy grail. This is the key, the hidden secret
which
sauce.
Still explains the similarities in the ticks.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, real interesting stuff. Wait, actually, whose ticks? Oh, Arnold's ticks.
Bernard's ticks. The ticks between Abernathy and Delos.
No, but they'd both be the same anyway. Would they not?
Okay, I mean...
Oh, no, actually, right, yeah, because if they're stealing it, if it's Ford's work, then they'd be similar, but not the same.
That one would be Arnold, not Delos inside Abernathy.
Yeah,
and the tics
well,
are less a personality, but more just a symptom.
yeah. Well, that's the thing though. If they're stealing it from Ford, I don't necessarily think there's a person inside Abernathy as much as it's just all the data's in there, potentially.
Okay,
Because I don't think
maybe.
it's Arnold in there.
No, but
Yeah,
I think it would be a bit out there, but I don't know. I
it's
don't
more
know
that they've
how
just
ingrained is Ford's research into the personality itself.
because Bernard says that this database that you saw in Abernathy was bigger than anything that exists in the park, so it's huge. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it's just a case of they're using him as a giant mule, a giant USB mule, and it's just there's so much data shoved into his brain that he's
It's why I was thinking it
yeah.
might actually be, Jim Delos, because the idea that the human brain actually is a lot more than just the other data for the hosts, for example. It's a lot more complex.
I guess my question would be is I don't think Delos actually care about bringing Jim Delos back. I think they just want to be able to do it.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But they've already
Yeah.
got Jim Delos, well underway, right? It's why abandon that when they've made progress and start over with someone
I guess what
else.
I'm saying is it's. I mean, yeah, if it's not stealing Ford's work and it's just stealing what's there from Williams' side of things, it makes sense to take it so they can keep working on it. But if it's stealing Ford's things, I don't think they actually need to steal a personality. They're just stealing the secret sauce, if you want to put it that way.
No, that's fair enough.
I'll tell you what I really like though. During this though is let's forget that Arnold might be inside Bernard, and because that'd
Yes.
be an interesting thing. It'd be very interesting. In fact, just to stick in that for a second, it'd be very interesting for Bernard to think that he's finally becoming self-aware, only to realize, oh no, wait, I'm Arnold.
That would be a fantastic twist.
Yeah, which would still make him self-aware, admittedly, but he'd be self-aware as because it's not like. I mean, we could debate, I suppose, if Jim Delos, like, he obviously wasn't aware of like everything, but as a person, like when he was in that room, did he have free will inside the room? Like, was he making choices based on things inside the room?
I would assume yes, because I think that's why the point of the scripted response. It's not that they'd scripted it for him.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely,
that this
yeah.
was just his reaction was always the same because he was free to always make that decision.
Because he was always presented with the same variables, so he always
Exactly.
reacted in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense because it was William who reacted differently. Because at one point he like sort of when he says the same thing, William gives him this glance like, oh yeah, he did say the same thing, like, which almost suggests to me that first time was the first time because the second time he came in, he reacted to him saying the same lines again because William was kind of like, oh yeah, you did say that again, and you did he was reacting more to it.
Yeah, I think it has to have been the second time at least because I think he still hands him the piece of paper at the end of here's
Oh,
the
true, yeah,
transcript
no,
from
you're right,
before.
you're right. But I think it's early. It's like one of the early
Oh,
trials of it.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm going to let a cat in whilst you say something. But actually, what I was going to say about Bernard that I really liked is the moment when he's trying to convince Elsie to like go with her. He's like, this is the first time I've ever actually been in control. Like, I wasn't aware of it before, but I've always been like operated by someone. This is the first time I actually get to decide who I want to be. And I'm like,
No, you're right, and that
I
would
like
be
that
tragic if
yeah.
ultimately he's not actually in control and there is someone else in there. And the question is, in the same way that we're talking about Dolores, as she has these multiple personalities. There's Dolores, there's Wyatt, and then there's maybe something else as well. Does this end up being the same? Is there Bernard and an Arnold, and they kind of clash?
kind of, but I don't like thinking about that in the same way that like Dolores has her, because I feel like with Dolores there's the three characters that are programmed into her, and what we're really creating with Dolores is the actual real like new free will born Dolores, who is an amalgamation of those things or of none of those things because she rejects them or whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
I feel like with Bernard and Arnold, it's this different thing where Arnold was real, and Bernard is just kind of he's kind of a character, but it's kind of based on Arnold. And I wonder if it's this kind of thing. I'm trying to think of like Total Recall. I'm thinking of Total Recall. For anyone who's seen Total Recall, I'm going to spoil that movie. Just warning, right? Right. So the plot of that movie is that Arnold Schwarzenegger like he's got his wife Sharon Stone, and it's in the future, and he goes to this thing called Total Recall, and it's like a virtual reality vacation. They strap you in a chair, you get jacked out of the Matrix, and they're like, hey, you do this, go on your vacation. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Mars? And he wakes up, and all of a sudden everyone's after him, and he ends up having to escape to Mars, and it's all kind of what's happening? Why did they all think he's this guy? And the big twist of the movie is that he actually was this villain who worked with the bad guys before, and he had his memory wiped. And it's when they tried to give him his memory back that things kind of went wrong. Because I can't remember why, he was hiding or something. But and basically, he decides to become the new version of himself. He doesn't want to be the villain because he's lived without that. And obviously, Arnold wasn't a bad guy, so I don't think he's going to reject it in that sense. But I wonder if there's this weird clash of this is the sort of person, because I started from scratch again, and I've become a new person, and then the old person is colliding with that.
That's what I was referring to when, okay, will there be a clash of, is it two very distinct people, essentially, and Bernard has to be like, no, this is who I am, I'm not Arnold, as much as Arnold's kind of part of me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a clash, I don't know if it's like a weird melding where he like sort of stutters between them, and then...
Or is there kind of a tragedy where Bernard is like, Arnold is the real person, so I should kind of give up myself to him.
But Arnold believed in the host becoming sentient and believing they were also alive. So does the Arnold side say, no, Bernard,
I had my time.
I had my chance. Yeah. This is your turn.
I can see it from like both of again, because presumably Bernard is a very similar man to Arnold because he was based on him anyway.
Yeah.
So I can see them kind of having that same thought of no, you take it.
We've not seen enough of Arnold really to say how close he was based in terms of personality.
We haven't. All we know is that we definitely have some of the memories in terms of the backstory of the wife and the child. They are definitely the same people that Ford programmed into Bernard, and obviously, I think it has to have been close enough that Ford still saw his friend, because we had the scene with him teaching him the glasses. So no, but Arnold always used it for a moment to compose himself, and Bernard does that because that's what Arnold did, and Ford always, he said to him, it's like, I hoped you would replace my friend, essentially. I hoped you would join me voluntarily. So I think he has to be modeled relatively closely for Ford to maintain that relationship.
Here's just to go back to the theory that this is Arnold, that was his mind that was recreated, and might already be in Bernard. I mean, you could always say it's not in Bernard yet, and it's just somewhere, but my guess would be it's already in Bernard, and that'll be part of the fun of the confusion and him figuring that out over the season. So, I think going back to him wanting to replace Arnold, and that's why he made Bernard, and why he taught him to act very similar mannerisms, so on and so forth. I think his guilt might be like not only the motivation to do what he did with the host and try and like help like build up to the sentience and making them sort of like realize they can defend themselves. The idea that the 30 years of experience is what they needed, on top of other things, to really have a grasp on what they need to do, how they need to survive, and so on. But on top of that, is the goal to do this? Is the goal to steal Williams' like research and tech and advance it to bring someone back? Is it all about his guilt over what happened to Arnold?
It might well be. Here's the question that will shape whether or not I think this is. Do you think Ford knew about what they were doing with Jim Delos, or do you think he was unaware of that happening?
I think he knew, and I think at least at first, I don't know what he maybe thought, when he was in season 1 timeline, but at first I imagine he probably hated that they were doing it. Okay,
so assuming he knew, and he knew they were failing, maybe the reason he built Bernard is he's seeing them take Delos and literally just as he is giving him a fresh body and going, here you go, and it's degrading, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's gone, okay, they need a baseline, they need something to anchor onto, so he'll create Bernard, give him enough personality that he's similar, he's there,
give him
kind
experience,
of a base model.
Just like the hosts themselves, give him some time, give him a few years at least of experience as Bernard.
And then when he puts it in, Arnold has something to anchor onto, and that can then flourish rather than degrade.
And the idea being that for it to work at all, human and machine kind of have to, or human and AI have to work together.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
no, I'm saying this. It fits with the line of theorizing and thinking that Ford had,
it
and
does. Yeah.
and Arnold had even. Um, but no, I think that's a big motivator for him. I think the guilt over Arnold dying younger and not living to see things, and I think even just that little flashback in episode 2 when we saw the reflection of Ford and he came in and said, "Arnold, like, stop being a perfectionist and stop giving favoritism. Like, come out and to put on the show. It's time for this hotel display with Logan."
Yeah.
And I wonder if, like, the way he argued with him, the way he treated him, like, is all this, and then leading up to his death and feeling that he failed him and that he wasn't there for him, is that, like, that where he learned his humanity, and that's why he's been trying to honour his memory for 30 years? Is that why he wants to give William his humanity, because he saw William deteriorate over those 30 years, and he wants to give him it back?
So, in the sense that he was kind of like William, he became obsessed with the
Yeah.
part, right? And then and he shunned his friendship in a similar way to how William kind of turned on Logan. They were never really friends, but in a similar sort of manner. And then he lost.
Well, actually,
and,
just to interject there, what I think is interesting about that is I'd argue that who he turned on was Dolores. Given how he treats Dolores when he comes to the park in season 1, and given how he felt about her at the start of the show and the flashbacks.
Yeah, no, that's a fair analogy, actually.
Yeah.
But this idea of, okay, it's a very similar, and this guilt, and he lost himself, and then he was driven by that guilt and was like, okay, I can be better, and maybe he's trying to help William see he can be better again at some point.
Yeah. No, I'm liking this stuff. I'm liking these ideas. So I'm going to say we liked the episode quite a bit.
Yeah, it's given us plenty of meat, hasn't it? And we haven't even really touched on much of the Man in Black itself stuff.
Yeah, Man in Black. He's with Lawrence, and they go to Lawrence's hometown, and
really dark scene of
the
Ford
railroad.
is directing them there because he wants to take the railroad, take the train this direction, and he gets out and they're building it in this different direction. They're going west instead of north,
and they're also putting the humans under the track, and
they're replacing the planks with them essentially.
Yes.
Oh god, that's dark.
That's really dark.
Yeah.
Literally building on the rich.
Yeah. And you gotta imagine there's a train's gonna come through there eventually.
I imagine a lot of gore when the trains rode over them.
I don't want to see.
So they go to Lawrence's hometown, and and we were here last season. I remember the bartender coming out and pouring a drink, and he's shaky. It turns out that Craddock and his men, who we saw Teddy sort of was merciful with last episode, and we get this kind of thing where they're holding everyone captive from the town, and they want to know where their weapons are hidden, and the Man in Black, not scared as everyone else. He's like, assessing the situation. As soon as Lawrence tells him, where they are, he stands up and is like, okay, here's your weapons. Like, well, you shouldn't give me what I want before you've negotiated. He's like, no, but that's, I don't care about that. Here's what I can offer. That's not what I'm offering you. I'm just giving, that's like a little...
A gesture of goodwill.
Exactly, yeah. Like, what I actually want to give you is this place you're trying to find. You call it Glory. It's got many names, though. I know where it is.
I think it's interesting because the previous connotations I'd gotten from this place called Glory that we've been referred to seem to be the afterlife, with the way they were talking about it before.
I have... Yeah, there's been connotations of that, but I feel like there's always been also kind of an inkling of an actual physical place to go to.
Right. Like I say, it felt like they were talking about an afterlife before, but now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and it's funny actually because I would have guessed before this that where they were trying to put people into hosts was what the big thing that Dolores was trying to find. But now that we've found this here, I don't feel like this is what she's going to find when she finds it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's something else then.
No, I agree. It's weird. I think it's when Man in Black said, that was his greatest regret wherever Dolores is going, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
And this would kind of fit that, but it doesn't feel like she's just going to find this place next.
No, it feels too early and too easy now after that.
Unless, like, if we're going with this as, like, there's 12 of these places, is there a Jim Delos, like, a experiment in every single one? Running simultaneously?
Yeah, maybe.
But then again, why is that specific one the greatest regret? Why is it that one?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Unless he's referring to just the overall concept of the human transcendence.
But yeah, but so what's this place though that's specific that it's not just one of these locations or just this place? Well, why is
No,
it?
I agree.
Why is it that's the specific one that's the biggest regret?
Yeah, no, it's possible. I will say, one of the things I say, glory could be the afterlife in the way they've been talking about it. The one thing I have in the defense of that is, Craddock talks a lot about death and finding death and being it's like he's overcome it. So there is no afterlife for him, right?
Which does lead to the. Well, why does that support that this is an afterlife thing?
Oh, because ultimately that's actually what he wants. He wants to break the loop. Essentially, he doesn't want to overcome death. He wants to proceed to the next place.
All right, okay. I never really quite got that necessarily from it.
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I don't necessarily have anything to counter it with. I just never got that impression, I guess.
No, that's fair. It's just a possibility.
It does lead to a really badass line though. Ed Harris, where he's like, "Oh, you've not met death because you're sitting right across from me. You never even recognised me."
Yeah.
And then that's when he goes on his spree. But obviously before that, we get the quick flashes to when he found his wife's body when she committed suicide. And I think what's interesting here, so he sees, like, obviously he knows they're all hosts, they're not real people. And up until now, he's been very like, oh, I'll treat them like they're toys because they're not real. He's had that attitude. That was season 1. That was season 1 Man in Black. But during this scene, he sees Lawrence, he sees Lawrence's wife and daughter, how they're scared, how they're reacting, how the town reacts to like the one old guy getting shot for no reason. All these little moments. And then later on, the bartender with the nitro in the glass.
The shot glass.
And then him just like shooting it anyway and blowing off his arm and all these things. He sees him being so cruel and like, I wonder, partly because obviously now that the game's been turned off and all the safety features, like there's no one coming to resuscitate them, essentially, after this. I wonder if that's a factor. Obviously the fact that Lawrence is concerned for his wife and daughter. We already know what happened to his wife, and we'll speculate about his daughter later on, but is this hitting some chords? Is this is this reminding him of things that he cared about, of people he cared about? So
also, we get the first hint that Lawrence has had some flashes of previous lives.
Yeah, because he says,
remembers about his wife.
Yes, he says, "You told me about your wife and daughter."
Yeah,
and he's like, "But you remember that? That wasn't this time. That was the previous
right, exactly.
Previous time with you."
He's getting there. He's getting somewhere along the way anyway. And
at least with him though, it doesn't feel like he's confused though. It's just that memory is just blended in. It's almost like he just remembers that if it did happen this time, but it didn't.
Right. I mean, that tracks with how a lot of them experience their memories anyway, though. But I think it's interesting that that's what stuck for him.
I like the idea though that so much of Lawrence's past few, like, at times of being Man in Black showing up and like dragging him on the adventure, they all blend together anyway. They don't contradict each other too much. But now you're right, the fact that he remembers that's the one that's stuck, which maybe in turn is actually what makes Man in Black go, hey, maybe there's actually some real humanity here, because he remembered that because that's the stuff that seems important, so therefore he understands that that's what is important, and that's why it's important
that he can relate to, as because he has he's worried about his wife and daughter, so he relates to he's very empathic about that. Yeah,
he relates to that, but just the idea that he remembered that is the idea that that's like everything else has faded away, but the first thing that slipped through that he shouldn't be slipping through is the idea that the people he cares about are what matters, and he remembered that story about him. So then on top of that, the little flashes, and then he does go nuts. And he has this badass action scene where he takes out all of Craddock's men. He kills them all. He kills Craddock. In fact, he makes them drink the liquid nitrogen, liquid nitro, and he then hands the gun to Lawrence. Says, "Here, shoot him," and he explodes. Like, he gets shot and he explodes. It's glorious.
Pretty glorious, yeah.
Freaking glorious.
It is.
And what I love about this is obviously I'm like, is he like starting a path of like humanity, like a redemption of humanity, of like actually caring? And of course, they actually kind of like throw this back in your face, because at one point Lawrence's daughter is taken over by the Ford coding and is like, "Oh hey, I see you did this," and he's like, "Hey, I'm no hero. I'm playing your game. I'll play it through till it's finished." And so it's kind of implying that he was self-aware of this, and he was just like, "No, this is what Ford wants me to do, and that's why he did it." I would rebuttal that and say, I'm not convinced, Man in Black. I think there's a part of you deep down in there that did this because it was right.
Right, no, I agree, because the Ford says to him, it's like, he says, "Oh, just because they don't remember doesn't mean one good deed makes up for anything." And again, I think it's notable to mention the memory things when we know some of them are starting to remember things.
Which is
And
also, just to bring a Man in Black, noticing that he remembered something, is that him going, oh shit, all these bad things I've done to some of these people.
could they be catching up to me?
Yeah. And if he runs into Dolores again and all the awful things he seemingly did with her, like, does that hit him? Does that affect him? No.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that Ford says is that if you're looking forward, you're looking in the wrong direction, which is very reminiscent of one of the things that he said before, in the idea of the direction.
That was said in the pilot. Oh, not the pilot. Sorry, the premiere of this season.
Yeah.
Again,
it seems key there.
I mean, I think in general it just makes sense in the idea that no, this is all about you atoning for your past and regaining your humanity. On top of that, it does work with the whole structure of the show where we have these hosts remembering things, so it also has that kind of thing.
One of the things that really stuck out to me in these scenes is in that scene, it's in the conversation where he's like, "No, I am death." He talks about how, death is always true, and we get this before that final scene with Jim Delos, before that final one where he's like, where he's given up on it.
Yeah, so he's died 139 times essentially.
Right.
Oh, actually, no, 140. The original one still counts.
Yeah, but we get this scene where he tells Craig, death's always true, no matter what. You can't fight that, and he seems to have accepted that death is a part of life, and I think he genuinely does regret what has happened with Delos. He regrets. As a young man starting up that program.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He absolutely regrets it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I do think his biggest regret is got to be something to do with this human hybrid program, and as Logan may have referred to it as the end of the species, right? I think he has come to have that realization at some point in his life.
I think the biggest regret is going to be related to why his wife killed herself.
Quite possibly.
I don't know. Did she kill herself over what he was doing with her father? Like, did she see some of this footage of her father, like, reliving, like, these awful moments and learning these things? Like, I could see there being potential there.
Oh, I could see it being something like, he's like, once we get this perfected, we can do it for us. We can live together forever, sort of thing.
And she killed herself before it could
happen.
And
she's kind of horrified by it. Yeah. It kills herself before he can get those memories.
Yeah. Which is why I keep going back to this. His greatest regret. I get. I agree. It's probably related to this, but it can't just be going to this place because now we've seen it. We've
seen it.
No, yeah. There's going to be something else we've not seen yet.
No, I agree with that. It's got to be something bigger as a reveal. It's got to be something more personal.
Oh, absolutely. So. Do we see, like, is there a place like this where he does have his wife, like, try to, like, get her fixed as well? Like, does he have, like, other family members in rooms?
Oh, maybe. Oh, is that one with Logan?
Oh, God. That really, see when he started shouting for Logan and he's like, oh, he's not coming either. Like,
yeah, he OD'd years ago. I was like, oh, that was cold.
Yeah, I didn't even like Logan, but that hurt. That was like, oh, man, this is just cruel.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Man in Black's journey, I think, like, I enjoyed his stuff last season, but the biggest stuff with it was kind of the speculation that he was actually just William. This season, the idea that he has his own journey where there's an arc and where he might come to a better place by the end of it is really fascinating.
I think that's the thing, because last season, William had the arc, Man in Black just had the mystery. Whereas now he actually does have an arc to back up the character.
Yeah. And Ed Harris is such a fantastic actor. There was so many moments where you could see that he was having a moment where he was like, you know what, I can't be the evil person here. I have to step in and do something.
Right, and in that scene with Delos, his acting is phenomenal.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, he's phenomenal. The acting in general is pretty great in this show, but Ed Harris is great, and it was funny to see him and Peter Cullen playing off of each other because both of them are great. So that scene in particular was just like top notch. So of course the final little plot, which felt the most separate because it felt like, okay, so it's obviously what's his face, Hemsworth, Hobbs, Stubbs, not Hobbs, Stubbs, Hemsworth the third.
Hobbs?
Hobbs Hobbs is from something, but it's similar to Stubbs.
It is from something because I recognize it. Like, yeah, we're a character from this sort. I thought it was a similar type of character as well.
It
Maybe.
probably is. But Stubbs, he's with the Ghost Nation, and obviously the dude from Fargo season 2 and every other thing with a Native American in it. He's there. He's the leader of the Ghost Nation. What is it he says again? Actually, he says something in his ear.
He says, "You only live as long as the last person who remembers you." This idea that essentially you're kind of immortal if people are still thinking about you. The idea of a legacy.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. But obviously, was Grace from last episode ends up there as well, so they're both kind of tied up. And do you know what I think is funny is that we get Elsie, and then we get obviously we already had Stubbs, but this is like Stubbs like directly like following on from his capture in season 1.
Yeah.
And I kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, both of those things happened relatively early in the season, that it felt weird that they happened so early before the finale. But here we are.
Stubbs was a bit later. Stubbs was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, but that's still relatively early.
Yeah, but it was still a couple of episodes after Elsie because he was going out investigating.
Oh yeah, I know it was because she was at the end of an episode. I know that. But what I'm saying is that I would typically expect those things to be in a finale and then get picked up an episode or 2 into the next season. But in this case, it was like Elsie was like episode 5 or 6.
Yeah, and then just not mentioned again
until this one. So
yeah, it is funny.
But I appreciate they're playing the long game where it's like, no, we'll get back to that. It's just there. We're getting to it when we get to it.
It is, and I thought it was really interesting. We were talking a lot about the Ghost Nation last episode and what their purpose in the park is.
Yes, I've not really changed my opinions on them too much, but
no, I agree. Like one of the first things that they tell us here is they're killing the hosts, but they're just they're rounding up the humans. They're keeping them close, but they're not harming them. They're just keeping them around. But they are actually killing the host, almost like they're protecting the people from them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It goes back to my idea of this being like inside security force that's kind of programmed to help. But
it does, yeah.
But yeah, obviously she kind of makes a run for it and runs off, and that's all fine and well. And of course, we end the episode with Man in Black's riding off. He's got Lawrence. He's got a couple of Lawrence's cousins or whoever with him.
Yeah, and some gorgeous shots of them riding on the horses.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's beautiful. Proper cinematic stuff. And of course, there's a woman and a horse coming up. And again, I kind of called who this was. I mean, there was always a chance it'd be someone else we know, but it was like, okay, I bet it's her because we saw her escape. And here she comes up. And obviously, we even guessed last episode. Like, one of our big... I mean, I questioned the hair colour, but it was still the best guess we had.
I questioned it because of the name, because we were told a different name before.
But she could be using an alias. There's no reason...
Yeah, no,
people change their name. Maybe she's, disgraced by the name her father gave her, so she's...
Yeah, no, could be.
But no, she says, "Hi, Dad." And it's like, oh, shit. And I think this is very interesting, because if we're doing a story where he's regaining his humanity, the one person left that'll matter to is his daughter.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's fascinating. It gives it even more stakes for him because now he's got to protect her. Well, not that she needs protecting. She's very clearly capable of doing that herself. But he's still a father. He's still going to want to protect her. That's just
it is interesting to pair this up, and because let's say we learned that the name that he gave his daughter in one of the Williams sections was Emily. They argue maybe she changed the name. Maybe it's an alias. Could he have 2 daughters that we maybe?
Possibly. No hint of that yet. I do think that makes her last episode wanting to only be with someone who's a real person and like checking it.
Yeah.
It makes that a bit more interesting that it's his daughter now.
Yeah, Joy is particularly interesting as well. Based on that, is she speaks roughly, not perfectly, but the Ghost Nation language, right?
Yeah.
And Stubbs is like, hey, if you learn their language, you must have spent a lot of time here. But when we saw her, she wasn't even in Westworld. She was in the Indian one. So it's like, okay, how much time has she spent in these parks over her life?
Yeah, Raj is what the Indian one's called.
Oh, is it?
That's what the name of it is, yeah.
Okay. And just the idea of, okay, sure, you're a privilege. You're the daughter of the man who owns the company for all intents and purposes.
I wouldn't be surprised if she... Well, I don't necessarily think she'd help make them because she doesn't... If she helped make them, she wouldn't be as... Because at one point she says to Stubbs, oh, I'm not waiting here to find out if they're going to kill us. Like, I think she'd be more confident about what they were going to do if she helped make them.
I agree. She seems she's a bit more aware of them than the average person. She makes a point of saying how most people kind of just forget about their narratives and don't pay attention to them.
I've got a guess here. I'm going to assume that Man in Black brought her on trips all the time to Westworld, and that's why she was in a different park. Is because when she has the choice, she never goes to Westworld now because she hates it, because that's where she was dragged to all the time.
Quite possibly. It's that classic, teenage rebellion almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be my guess right now. But no, it's an interesting revelation, and I think, well, I mean, it's one that makes sense. I mean, it was either that or Teresa's daughter. That was our two guesses.
Yeah, they were the
last
two
season.
that we came up with last week. So yeah.
Yeah, but no, it makes sense. She's very capable, which again makes sense coming from him. I assume that he's taught her many a thing in his time.
Or alternatively, he taught her nothing and basically just ignored her after, especially after his wife died, and she kind of taught herself as a point of hardening up.
Oh, maybe we have no way of guessing
Yeah.
that now, but that's
I can see it going either
possible.
or.
I feel like more likely he was probably close to her until the wife died,
Yeah.
and then maybe she hated him for it because she blamed him, perhaps,
Almost certainly, I'd say.
or drifted apart or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think my guess right now would be they were close at one point, and then
It's just how young was she when the wife died?
oh, true, yeah, we don't know, had no
Yeah.
idea, no idea. So I guess we'll find out at some point. No, is there anything else we've missed that we want to talk about? Obviously, there was no Dolores, no Maeve.
No,
None of that.
we get that on next week. The
We always do.
Shogun World
Yes.
stuff.
We're getting that next week. I'm not even disappointed we get no Shogun because this was the best episode of the season so far. I'm
I agree.
calling it. I'm calling it.
I was just captivated on everything.
I'm calling it. So
And like I say, the way it was so focused, because usually there are so many different strands, and here it felt like there was all these different strands until the end.
yeah, and honestly, just to go back to it, I actually love the new setup of having Bernard at least thinking he's choosing who he's being, but he's teaming up with Elsie, who understands hosts. She worked with the host. She's someone who knows them better than... I mean, Bernard arguably knowed them better, but now he's kind of confused because he is one.
Yeah, that was always the great thing with him last season. Once we got that revelation, is that he's a man who is what he thinks. He knows what he is, but he's got this objectivity about it because he works on them.
Yeah, but her being there, her knowing what they are, understanding, and the surprise that she doesn't even know what these big white milk robot drones are.
Yeah.
That all that's fascinating. But them being a team and going around is great. I'm really happy.
It is,
with
and
that.
it's this really uneasy alliance because Bernard's being so genuine. Like, of course I'm not going to hurt you, but she's still even though she's like, right, okay, I accept you're a host. I accept you probably did that under, not under your own free will. But I'm kind of terrified of you on some level. Like, I don't trust you not to do it again.
Yep. No, it's great. And then of course we get the flashback of him getting the host to kill everyone.
And it's worth noting that he murders the final dude himself. He stamps on his head.
Yep. So I don't know. But again, I think we want to believe that Bernard's good and all that.
We do, yeah.
And I think he is. I mean, I would guess that he is. I think we've seen that Ford's made him do things in the past, so I'd be more willing to guess that Ford is the one who's behind the evil, even though that does seem even more evil than usual for Ford.
We've seen Ford have him kill people, like with Teresa. So if they're in the way, Ford would do it, I suppose.
Yes. But doing it, it's like having them work in something, knowing you're going to kill them at the end because you don't want them to speak, is especially evil.
It is. Here's what I'm wondering: what if it wasn't Ford? Because so last week I was speculating that Charlotte knows that Bernard's a host, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if she's the one who sent him in for this thing in total? Like, because she presumably knows about Daddy Delos down there.
I can see that. Yeah, they've hacked into him and they've made him do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, at this point, we don't know if, as much as they're being shady, we don't know at this point if Delos and Charlotte, being the representative of Delos, if they're willing to just murder people for what they're wanting. We don't know if they're that far gone.
No, I feel like I assume so, given they're quite happy to just let people, they're quite happy to let their employees die in this whole scenario until they get what they want.
Oh, true. No, you're right. Yeah, she did lead them in last time, and basically to a slaughtering ground, so she could sneak out the back with Abernathy. So,
right. So I would assume that they're kind of willing.
No, that's fair. I guess it's just that it didn't spring to me because it is a very different way of killing people. It's this is brutal. We're going to make sure you can't speak even though we put you in this position in the first place.
No, that's true. And like I say, that could be a nothing entirely. It was just something that popped into my head then.
No, that's interesting. So no, a lot going on. Westworld, fire on all cylinders. Loved this episode.
Yeah.
Really freaking good. Looking forward to more of this exploration, seeing who else might be in this stuff. I don't know. there's so much we could do with this. There's so much.
I think this episode proves that it knows how to bring everything together, even on a smaller scale, rather than just the big season-wide scale.
Oh yeah, I feel that's true in general though, because I feel like just like meeting Grace last episode and then ending this one with the Hi Dad. That's them showing that, okay, some things won't be drawn out all season. Now, I feel like whoever the mind was that Bernard made and like implanted in this flashback in the episode, that might be like a long time before we find. That may be the end of the season stuff.
I can feel that being a season final review.
But that Hi Dad thing, I feel like, last season, like everything was a mystery all season.
Yeah, no, it's true. This is, like I say, it's one of the most complete episodes the show's ever had, in the sense that, okay, here's the mystery, and we're going to tie it all together in one episode. It's rare to see that on this show, and I think it's interesting that they're showing that they're willing to do that now.
If it makes sense and it serves the larger whole, and of course, there's always a chance that they'll reveal something else later that makes this episode completely different, and we'll go back and watch it again and go, oh shit, this is actually this, and that's actually that. Of course,
if you're listening to this in 6 months' time, and you've seen the whole season, and you could be laughing at some of the stuff we're saying quite happily.
Probably. But I don't think we're doing too bad. But that's Westworld, episode 4, season 2. Let us know what you thought of this one. Of course, go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and check out the stuff that we've got on offer if you want to support the channel and support everything we do here. There's also bonus stuff and stuff in the various tiers. Also, there's links to all the different audio feeds we have, all the different shows we have on YouTube, all that stuff. So go have a look at that. Like, subscribe, let us know what you thought of the episode, give us your theories in the comments. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Damn good TV at that, in this case. And we'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla robot monsters?